Hello and welcome back. This is Junhua from TCM Explained. In the last video, we learned about yin-yang and its application in TCM. In this video, we are going to learn about the theory of the 5 elements. Now we know that yin-yang is about observing things or phenomena in nature and ascribing them to either yin or yang. The 5 elements is about grouping them into 5 categories and understanding their relationships. These 5 groups are the 5 elements that are commonly found in nature: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Let's start with wood. The color that belongs to wood is green. When we say wood, think of living trees or plants. Trees seem hard and sturdy, but it is bendable and soft because they can grow around anything that blocks them, and they grow straight toward the sun. So we say wood can be bent and straightened. Wood also symbolizes expansion because it grows in all directions, meaning the qi is going from inside to outside. Second element is fire. Fire is red. Fire is hot, very active, and kind of transparent. In other words, it represents yang. So fire flares upwards. Metal is white and can be molded and can harden. Think of hot liquid form of metal being molded and hardened from outside as it cools down. It symbolizes contraction. The quality of metal is opposite to that of wood, and notice how wood and metal are positioned in opposite sides of this diagram. Water is black, and water represents yin, so water moistens downwards. Water and fire represent yin and yang, so they oppose each other. Fire is hot, water is cold, fire flares upwards, and water moistens downwards. Water changes its shape depending which kind of container is being poured into, so that represents the passive nature of yin. Lastly, earth is yellow, and we place it in the center because earth is a mediator who is responsible for neutrality or stability. Earth permits sowing, growing, and reaping, because earth embraces other elements. We can understand this axis as a representation of direct communication between fire and water, and earth is in between acting as a pivot. As it turns around its axis, it turns the outer arms, wood and metal. It's another way to say that earth is the center and it has effects on other elements. Now that we have gone over the general nature of the 5 elements, let's see what other things can be associated with each element. This diagram looks similar to the circle when we learned about yin-yang in the last video. Here is spring, belongs to wood, where everything bursts into birth. It's the beginning of the activity. Summer belongs to fire, where everything grows, is the peak of activity. Fall belongs to metal, where everything starts to converge, is the beginning of recess. Winter belongs to water, where everything is stored, is the peak of recess. The transition between seasons belongs to earth, where everything transforms. Let's see how this applies to TCM. As you know, our organs can be divided into yin and yang. Yin organs are called zang organs, and yang organs are called fu organs. I will write yin organs and yang organs side by side because they are interior-exterior pairs. For wood, we have liver and gallbladder. For fire, we have heart and small intestine. For earth, we have spleen and stomach. For metal, we have lung and large intestine. For water, we have kidney and bladder. We will dive into each organ in our TCM Physiology series. Meanwhile, if you want to learn more about the categorization of 5 tastes, emotions, sounds, tissues, etc., you can visit our blog. The link is in the description. Before we end, I want to go over what's called the sequence of 5 elements, or the law of movement of 5 elements. Theory of 5 elements are sometimes translated as 5 processes or 5 movements because of this interrelationship among 5 elements. Keep in mind that when we say wood, we are referring to liver, and fire is heart, and so on. There are 2 physiological sequences. First, we have the generating sequence. Wood generates fire, fire generates earth, earth generates metal, metal generates water, and water generates wood. The previous element in a sequence promotes the one that comes after. In other words, 2 elements are in a mother and son relationship. The one who generates is called mother, and the one who is being generated is called son. For example, wood will be the mother, and the fire will be the son. Then we have the controlling sequence. Wood controls earth, earth controls water, water controls fire, fire controls metal, and metal controls wood. This sequence keeps each element in check, so the certain element does not become excessive. The generating sequence and controlling sequence work together as a self-regulating system that keeps things in balance. For example, wood generates fire, which generates earth. But at the same time, wood controls earth. Also, earth itself generates metal, which controls wood. So there was 2 physiological sequences, and now we will go over the 3 pathological sequences. These are essentially an imbalance within a system. One is the abnormal generating sequence. There are 2 possible ways: the mother element not nourishing the son element, or the son element taking too much from the mother element. The second is the overacting sequence. It follows the order of the controlling sequence, but here controlling element over-controls the other element. This happens when the controlling element is excessive or the element being controlled is deficient. For example, water overacts fire. The last one is the insulting sequence. This follows the opposite direction of the controlling sequence, meaning it happens when the element under control is stronger than the controlling element. So the element under control does not get restrained, rather it counteracts the controlling element. For instance, fire insults water. Let's review what we learned in this video. We talked about 5 elements. We went over colors, qualities, and movements that belong to each element, and interior-exterior Zhangfu organ pairs as well. And lastly, interactions among those elements, including 2 normal sequences and 3 abnormal sequences. On our blog, you can find more examples of 5 elements. There are a lot to memorize, but these are the basic foundations we must know. So after watching this video, please take your time to review as much as you need. In the next video, we are going to learn about 5 vital substances, starting from essence.